So I just wanted to do a video about my thoughts on it. It might be a little less organized because I started watching it not intending to make a video at all. I just was watching it for fun, if you can believe that. Hello and welcome back to the Miscellaneous channel where we do miscellaneous things. I'm so Lenny. I typically cover pop culture, internet trends, and other miscellaneous things on this channel, so subscribe if that's your vibe. Today I wanted to talk about a new show that I watched. I watched all of it almost in one sitting, not in one sitting, but like within a day, and that is the AMELIO show. So this is gonna be kind of a reaction video. I had sort of a lot of feelings after watching this show. So I had seen the AMELIO show promoted to me the past month or so. It was gonna be on Hulu. It looked like a reality show following the AMELIO family. It's mainly the family of Charli D'Amelio. She's like the famous influencer of the family. By association, her family has become also influencers in their own way. Charli, I believe, is the most followed person on TikTok, and she's famous for doing, you know, the classic what you think of TikTok dances. She is a very young girl. She's 16. I think she's 17 now, but she rose to fame around 15, 16 and has well over 100 million followers on TikTok. From the commercials for this show, I expected it to be like very like Kardashian-ish, and when I started watching, it was formatted a lot more like a documentary and docuseries. I feel like at this point in media, the line between documentary or docuseries and reality show, like Kardashian style reality show, is so blurred that it's hard to distinguish what this is. I mean, I do think it's a reality show, but like it's a very documentary in how they present it. Especially the first episode felt like a documentary because it presented sort of all the background about Charli D'Amelio, how she rose to fame, who her family is, so it felt very documentary-like. And there were some later episodes that felt a little more reality show-wise. It's like, today I'm going on a date. And I found it all very fascinating. It was just, it was a lot, so let me just get into it. Like I mentioned, Charli D'Amelio is a famous TikTok influencer. Her sister, Dixie D'Amelio, who is older, she's like 20 years old, is also an influencer now with a lot of followers as well by association. Charli D'Amelio focuses on dancing as her main talent. Even though her TikTok dancing is very simple, she was like a dancer, like think like the Dance Moms girls. And Dixie D'Amelio has ventured into recording artist, and that's like her main thing that she likes to do. And then she has like two parents that are married. At this point, like these TikTok influencers and stuff will rope in like their parents to also become influencers, because I guess what else do they have to do? But the parents also get like brand deals. They get like yogurt brand deals or like energy drink brand deals. So it's interesting how like one influencer can just make their whole family an influencer, which I guess is true to the Kardashian model. So I was really expecting a show that was very Kardashian-ish and just like very vapid and petty, like little drama, but it was a lot more just kind of like, first of all, documentary-ish, so it was more serious than a typical reality show. It wasn't like focused on drama. It was focused a lot on like their feelings and their life. I had a lot of thoughts. I'm just like, I feel like child influencers need to be abolished at this point. Like, it was just so depressing. The show went through like a few months of their life. Like it followed them over a few months. I think it was like early 2021 to mid 2021. It just followed like the whole family around, especially Charli and Dixie with whatever endeavors they were doing. Throughout the show, they're working like on a clothing line. Dixie's working on a single, and Charli is working like on a lot of different projects.
This is a look at your 2021.
She has a lot of different brand deals. She's making content. She's featured on articles. She has a podcast. So like it was just following all of these sort of activities. And what really struck me was like the overarching theme of the whole show was sort of the darkness of social media and of the internet. And that's what really took me aback. Like, I really thought this show was going to be about, you know, their life and what they're doing and just watching rich people enjoy their riches. So much of the show is dedicated to documenting how the sisters handle hate comments, and it was just like kind of tragic to see. Like, I feel so weird about it because, you know, I think it's becoming more of a trend now for influencers to, or famous people, to talk about the price of fame and how difficult their life is despite them being rich. When they do open up about these things, you know, people always tell them, like, you're rich, get over it. So they get a lot of hate for opening up about struggles. And every time I've seen influencers or whoever talk about those struggles, they mention that. They're like, I know this sounds crazy, I'm like rich and famous, but I'm sad. People are talking about this a lot more after the whole Free Britney movement became legitimized and we learned all of these horrible things about how Britney was treated. We've revisited old paparazzi footage and seen all of those things and that abuse she endured. And yet, like, nowadays, famous people are still getting abused and torn apart. So it's kind of like Britney was like the epitome, probably like the worst possible you can get. But it's interesting to see how that culture of tearing down, especially young women, has evolved and is still here. Despite how much people talk about Free Britney, and it's still happening now. And like, do we realize it's the same thing? I don't know if we realize that or people realize that. The way these girls, Charli D'Amelio and Dixie too, to an extent, they're always so conscious. They're like hyper aware of how everything they do is going to be perceived by everyone seeing them. It was pretty apparent to me throughout the whole show. Charli is straight up afraid to leave her house.
Millions of people watching your every move, that's like constant terror.
And they sort of sometimes joke around about it, sometimes are like, she just doesn't like to leave the house, you know, she has a lot of anxiety. They opened up a lot about their mental health problems. Both of them have very crippling anxiety. It was just so tragic to me seeing a somewhat regular 16-year-old girl being so terrified of going outside just due to her own fame. Like, that was so sad to watch. And like, I get it too. Like, the whole show was a lot of like seeing rich people cry in their mansion, like seeing them complain and cry about their life in a mansion. But like, it was sad. It was sad. I know. It was very like, Kim, there's people that are dying because literally society is collapsing. Like, the world is on fire and flooding at the same time. Like, there's so much going on in the world that like these problems seem extremely petty. But it was hard to see that. Like, I think what gets me most about Charli D'Amelio is that she's a minor. And she's not the first one. Like, there's millions of child stars that have gone down this path of fame and had very different outcomes. And that's, I think, the tragedy to me. She's like a child. Like, I can't even blame her for like, woe is me crying in my mansion. She's a child. She didn't mean to. And throughout the whole show, they talk about, they're always asking her, like, why are you famous? A lot of her hate comments are, why are you even famous? What are you famous for? She herself can never explain it. She's always just like, I don't know. I was just posting on social media. Like, I was just posting me dancing. During the rise of TikTok, she just seems very confused. And I think, to me, it gives a vibe that she's cool with some fame, but like the amount of fame she gets, she doesn't think is warranted, which it isn't. But also, like, people followed her. Like, it's not her fault people followed her. It just feels so weird. And it's not what I expected to feel from the show. It just felt so strange because her life changed, you know, within like a year during a whole pandemic. It just feels like such a weird case and story because she's not an actress, she's not a singer, she's a dancer, but the dances she does on TikTok are very like specific. They're not like, you know, technically great dancing, you know, like she's famous for doing like little movements, you know, on TikTok. She doesn't understand why, and people are always asking her why she got to this huge level of fame, wasn't trying to, and then she gets torn apart for that level of fame. It's like, what the heck does she do then? Like, I guess stop posting is the solution. Just quit it all. Honestly, if I was her, now that I think about it, I'd be like, you know what, till I turn 18, I'm going to keep doing this, and then I'm taking all that money, I'm retiring, bitches. Like, that's what I don't get. Why can't they do that? Why don't they do that? Pull like the Jenna Marble. It's just like, you know what, I existed on the internet, I'm part of pop culture, and now I'm not. Bye. But okay, oh my god, this part broke my heart. So the show started out pretty light, you know, like, yeah, we're doing a lot, we're busy, but you know, I'm trying to have time to be a kid too, and it all felt very like good. And the first half or so of the series, it's an 8-episode series, I should have mentioned that, sorry, like 30-minute episodes. So the first, you know, half of the episodes, it was all like, okay, we're working, we're doing stuff, we're going on dates, we're hanging out with friends, you know, all this stuff. And then I feel like the second half, just towards the last few episodes, it got so dark. She was like breaking down straight up from how much she had to do. She didn't understand some of the jobs she was on. She was just like, I don't even know what this is. Like, I can't do this. I can't give this speech. Like, I'm gonna get torn up online. She was so like hyper aware of how the public was going to react. She was just like at a total breaking point. At some point when she was around this breaking point, she talked about all of the jobs that she provides with her fame. The 20-something people that work for her, you know, makeup artists, stylists, PR people, agents, her parents, everyone relies on her to pay the bills. So if she quits, all of those people are out of a job. Hearing her say that like broke my heart. And I think this is the core of the issue with young people, child actors and entertainers. Like, this is the issue because their families' bills and a bunch of other adults that work for them rely on this child working like more than the average adult. You can't put that on a child. It's just so confusing. Like, how is that not child labor law abuse? I've looked into this topic before, kind of because I watch a YouTuber called Smoky Glow. I really like her videos. She's a very like, she's kind of a big YouTuber now, but she's a very like regular person. Has like a very regular life. She's not in LA or anything. She has some experience with sociology, so she talks a lot about this like child actor and like violation of minors in social media, and how it's so fucked up because child actors, because it's an older profession, they have a lot of laws in place that protect child actors. They have to put away their money like for them to until they turn 18. Like, by law, their parents can't just take their money. They have to only work a certain amount of hours a day. They have to go to school. So there's like a lot of, you know, laws in place to protect child actors. And even then, child actors are still overworked. The laws aren't perfectly protecting them. We've seen Allison Stoner, who was this child actress. You'll probably remember her from like Cheaper by the Dozen, a lot of like Disney stuff. She's really good in Camp Rock. Allison Stoner came out recently and talked about the toddler to train wreck pipeline, I think is the name of the video, and she talked about how she was overworked as a kid. She had all this pressure on her, and how that has been so damaging to her as an adult. And I just feel like Charli D'Amelio, from what I can see in this documentary, is headed down the same path. And unfortunately, like, Charli D'Amelio's case is like best case scenario. Like, her parents are very supportive, they're very present, they're very protective, and they're there. But we've seen what happens when the parents are not. When the parents are greedy monsters like Britney Spears or Lindsay Lohan, that's when the child actor turned adult really suffers. So Charli D'Amelio, I think the conclusion of the documentary talked about how she has a good support system, and that's what's keeping her like not going off the deep end, basically. Even with a supportive system around her friends and family, she still has all this pressure, and I still think that is not okay for a minor to have. She's literally like, if I just quit tomorrow, then these people won't have a job. It's definitely interesting how abuse is still happening, especially for young girls. Like, it's crazy how Charli and Dixie and the girls, the influencer girls shown in the D'Amelio show, they're very aware of like how the patriarchy and misogyny is affecting them and the hate they get. Like, Charli talks a lot about how like her TikTok peers that are men or boys don't get anywhere near the hate she gets, get away with so much more controversial or bad things, when Charli is literally like apple pie, America's sweetheart, like can't breathe the wrong way or she'll get attacked. It's just so sad to see a young girl be so aware already and awake to misogyny. And it's just like, I feel so stupid being like, oh my god, these poor rich people, I'm like defending them and like, you know, but it just feels like, yes, there's bigger problems in the world, but also like, why are they treated so shittily for literally not doing anything like harmful? Charli actually presented this like the tiers of getting canceled, which I thought was a very helpful breakdown of how people get canceled. It was like, first was like breaking the law, doing a crime, so that would be like, you know, having inappropriate relations with minors, physical abuse, lots of things, any breaking the law. Next was hurting a lot of people, so that would probably be like cultural appropriation or saying a slur, which I think is pretty bad. Like, those two top ones are really bad. The next tier is making a common mistake, and then the last tier is just like people just hate you. It was just so wild to me to see a 16-year-old be so like afraid of the world. Like, I know it's so like Lucky by Britney Spears. It's like, she's so lucky, she's a star. I wonder if Charli D'Amelio listens to that song and it's like, yeah, that's me. At the very end, her parents stepped in and were like, you know what? We need to stop everything. She needs a break. They only gave her like a week break, but they were like, she needs a break. And after that, they came back with a more modified schedule of hours when she's working. She only works like 3 days a week and for 6 hours or something. And I hope that's true. I feel like, I don't know why I get the feeling that's BS, because she has so much to do, like content and all this stuff. So I hope that schedule is true, that she is working less. At first I was like, oh my god, she's getting off easy, barely working, like I want that schedule. But then I was like, wait, she's a child, she shouldn't have any working hours. And she does, you know, typical like child actor homeschool stuff. And it was very eye-opening to see this. Like, it's all stuff I knew, but at the same time felt wild to like see play out this year sort of in real time. Why are people so toxic on social media, on the internet? Like, I knew people were like this, but at the same time it's like, I go back and forth. I'm like, oh, woe is me, I'm rich, and you know, people are getting evicted and flash flooded out of their homes and war and all this stuff that's like way more horrifying. But it's like, I don't know, social media feels so terrifying to be like, or just mainstream fame. The price of it is something that we never allow famous people to talk about, because it feels like, you know, you're so lucky, you're a star. It's the lyrics to Lucky. I think that song sums it up. People are like, why are you complaining? And Charli's self-aware about that. She's like, we'll be like, why are you complaining? And she's just like, I'm sad, I have anxiety, and people don't listen. She talked about this one therapist that she talked to. It was like their first session, and the therapist said, oh, my daughter's a huge fan. And Charlie like freaked out because it's like no privacy, no anonymity. Like that's hella unprofessional of a therapist. And it's something even that YouTuber I was talking about, Smokey Glow, that talks about child actors and child influencers. She recently had this happen to her at like a health facility, and she got really freaked out. And it's just like the price of fame is very, very steep, and it's something that like everyone wants, but also comes at its own price. Like in the words of Rumpelstiltskin from Once Upon a Time on ABC, all magic comes with a price. Like, yeah, you'll get the glitz and glam and going to the award show and winning awards and being on magazines and getting a record deal without having to work your way up there. All of that comes with a price, and that is like losing your privacy and almost losing your right to your own likeness and image. It was a very interesting reminder. It was sad to think about me, you know, being someone that's in the world of social media, like consuming a lot of it. And it's hard because it's also like you feel helpless. Like I don't leave any hate comments on anything ever. It feels helpless when you're not someone that's doing that. I do feel like, you know, docuseries have been a great vehicle for people to humanize themselves so that the hate or haters see a human side. People really respond to vulnerability. That's something I've learned watching a lot of reality TV and seeing RuPaul talk about that stuff, and like how people at home want to see you vulnerable, and that if you do that, you know, people will like you more. It's just so strange. It's so convoluted, everything, like the internet and just like fame and how they overlap. It's just like, it's fascinating, but so sad and disgusting at times. And I just feel bad. Like, I don't think minors should be subjected to this. And I think this is a broader, much broader conversation, because think of all the like baby influencers, like, you know, parents that from birth are sharing their child on social media and gain millions of followers. Think of like that Ryan's Toys kid. He reviews toys and is, you know, one of the most subscribed channels. And it's just like, these children don't need all this pressure of like providing for their family. That's just so, it's fucked up. Dixie D'Amelio in the show also had like a breakdown moment where she gets a lot of hate for her music. I think because she, you know, she's famous because of her sister and didn't work her way up in the music industry, and that leads people to totally disregard and disrespect her. It's a very difficult situation to navigate in like a graceful way, because it's like, Charlie mentions this, she says, if you had access to a record deal and liked music, you wouldn't take it, regardless of if it's your sibling or whoever that can get it for you. And it's true, like no one would deny that opportunity, but the price of that is that people are not going to respect your music. They're going to hate on it, they're going to critique it, make videos, and it's a whole economy. Like the whole tea channel and gossip channel economy is like the new tabloid culture. Oh, it's so weird, and humans are so weird. Like it's this phenomenon too of like building a woman up just to tear her down. It's like you hype her up, 100 million people follow her, and then everyone hates her. This phenomenon has been talked about by Jamila Jamil, mainly I've seen, how tabloids do this. They'll overhype someone to the point of making you sick of them. Like Jennifer Lawrence is an example of this. Once they're at that point of like you're so annoyed by hearing about them, they'll find a flaw and make a headline, be like, Jennifer Lawrence gained a bunch of weight, or Jennifer Lawrence got divorced, or I don't know, whatever. And everyone is just like jumps and tears them down. My favorite artist, Lady Gaga, talks about, happens in the music industry too. She's mentioned in her music. I think that's what the paparazzi video is kind of about. Gaga talks a lot about fame and has helped me decipher a lot about fame. But anyway, I digress. I know I'm talking about a lot of stuff, and Yeah, Dixie had a breakdown because of all the hate she was getting on her music, and she can't do anything right, and people just hate on her so much. And that was earlier in the series, and then she sort of recovered and got better at not caring so much about the hate. One thing though, like, musicians will swear they're always going to the studio. They're always going to the studio tomorrow, and that is a little pretentious, I found, about Dixie. I feel bad, but and not just Dixie does this. It feels like especially musicians that have like something to prove, or like are really trying to prove they're a musician, why they're always talking about going to the studio. I'm just like, we get it. You're a musician. You're going to the studio. Like, Dixie mentioned it every other sentence. But sorry, I'm part of the problem. I'm part of the problem. I'm criticizing Dixie. It's not at Dixie. It reminds me honestly of Gabby Hanna. She's always, you know, talking about her music and going to the studio, and it just feels like, you know, just let the work speak for itself, girl. It's okay. Are they going to the studio every day? Like, okay. Sorry, I'm part of the problem. I need to stop hating. It's a weird thing where it's like you feel helpless. Just support your faves. Leave nice comments. That's all we can do, honestly. I'm sure a lot of people that are making these comments are literally children. Like, Dixie and Charlie are the type of influencers that would probably have a strong child audience. I mean, Charlie is a child, so I imagine their demographic is pretty young. These feel like kids just like bullying and not understanding their words have an effect, and I'm scared. I'm scared. I'm so sad watching this. So I talked a little bit about this in my He's All That video, but I really was craving to see like a fictional representation that's realistic of an influencer, because He's All That made their main character an influencer, played by Addison Rae, and Gossip Girl's main character is an influencer as well, the reboot. And to me, the way they portray influencers is so like one-dimensional. It's just like they're just always trying to take pictures, and it's just like, it's so much more than that. And like, there's a big dark side to it, the financial burden. I hate that these fictional shows just like show them as influencers with like hundreds of thousands of followers and don't show like the reality of that. The AMELIO show is a good way of seeing like a documentary style of that, but I am craving like a fictionalized version of this. It'll come soon, I hope. But my favorite show ever is The Comeback, and that is that, but for an older actress. I want like The Comeback starring like an influencer and seeing how they fictionally portray an influencer in an accurate way. I know it's convoluted, but I bet it's coming at some point. It'll be cool, hopefully. I feel like in fiction they just throw in that a character's an influencer when like that entails so much labor and such a mental toll that it's like, this character is so flat because it's not realistic. I'd love to hear what you think about all this. That's kind of like a heavy topic. It's definitely making me kind of sad, so let me know what you think in the comments below. I'd love to hear about it. Please like this video and subscribe to my channel if you enjoyed. I put out new videos twice a week about pop culture, internet trends, and other miscellaneous things. And you can follow me at Miscellaneous on Instagram or Twitter to find out about new videos, or just turn on the bell notification here on YouTube. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll catch you in the next one. Bye.